Mino Line Media presents the Business First Podcast.
Hi, all, and welcome to a new episode of Business First with Sonia Alleyne. I am your host, and today I am excited to talk to an old colleague. When I say old, we've known each other for a long time. Ms. Shante Bacon, who is a communication strategist, serial entrepreneur, and a social justice advocate. She is also the CEO and founder of 135th Street Agency. And I'm excited for her to share her insights and all the new things that she's going to be doing, how she's been able to pivot and maintain through a 20-year career in terms of maintaining her business. Welcome, Shante. How are you?
I am well. How are you?
I am good. We haven't spoken in a really, really long time. And so I'm excited to speak with you and share your information with our audience. 135th Agency, 135th Street Agency is over 20 years old. That's hard to believe.
It is very hard to believe. I mean, we started it on January 5th, 2005. And in this past January 5th, it literally just turned 20 years old.
Wow. And so you have seen, particularly in terms of marketing and PR, we've seen a lot of changes. And so how are you doing? How are you doing currently?
Me personally?
Yes, you and your business.
Okay, cool. So I personally, there's been a lot of life changes over the last few years. I became a mom in 2020, and it was right in the middle of COVID. So literally no one knew. My baby shower was 10 days before I gave birth. And so people were coming to the baby shower and they were like, I didn't know you were pregnant. And I was like, well, we haven't seen each other all year long. We've all been in seclusion. So I found out about him on January 9th and the world shut down on March 16th. So it wasn't like a whole lot of opportunity to see anybody. So I've been doing the mom thing and also the caretaker thing, which I will have a lot to say about the caretaker thing and guidance for entrepreneurs who are doing it, because I had no idea what it was like until my mom's dementia started accelerating and she came to move in with me. So it's me, my mom, and my son, and we have a large loving household and large loving family. But entrepreneuring while caretaking and momming, that is I always laugh with people and I say I'm the poster child for the sandwich generation, because this is it. And so we're well. I mean, every time my son is, one of my favorite words to describe him is delicious. I cover him with kisses all the time, and he's like, "No, mom." I'm like, "You don't want kisses? You shouldn't be so delicious." He is my Booski Bear. That's what I call him. His name is Richard Farrow Bacon Sears. And yeah, I mean, life is great. I mean, we came through COVID, and I feel like that definitely was a moment to set priorities. If you came out of COVID not knowing what's important in life, you missed a huge opportunity, because I feel like it level set and reset everyone to when you're locked in a house and you look around at if it all went down, who's in the room with you. It's really about those people that were in the room with you during quarantine time, and just leaning more into that, traveling a lot less and not living out of a suitcase, and releasing the hustle 24/7 hustle culture. That was difficult for me, but it was needed. And I feel like I live a better quality life now.
Yeah. So your son, having a son, actually forced you to rethink how you were moving. Because if you didn't have your son, you would still probably be moving the way you had been prior to COVID.
Probably not at the same pace prior to COVID,
Okay.
but I probably would still be in a grind mode that I'm not in now. Like I have more time to lean into faith, and to really understand that, wealth and money is energy, and the more your energy around it is relaxed and confident that it will come in, the more it does come in, when you're not like, I gotta eat what I kill, and constant, chasing it. I feel like I have a new relationship with wealth, with money. Got a beautiful beachside condo in Nassau, Bahamas, and that is I call it my blue happy place.
Mm.
And just living a better quality life for real.
What do you think was it, if it wasn't necessarily your son, what do you think is it that propelled you to think a little differently about how you were moving?
um it was a lot of different things, but I will start
And
with,
was COVID part of it, where we had to sit
yeah,
for a minute
I think
and
COVID
we couldn't really move at the pace we wanted to because of COVID?
absolutely. I think it's a lot of things. I think that COVID slowing us down and giving us no choice and
Mm.
making you sit still and just figuring out who you are, what's important to you, what actually entertains you when networking is not a thing. Like
Mm.
when it's you and the people you love, or the people you grew up with, that you hopefully love, and the people that are essential. COVID really showed what's essential in life. So I think that that was part of it. That was the beginning of it. It was the beginning of,
Right.
of an evolution. I think that having my miracle baby, because I had a miscarriage when like the year before he was born. So I didn't really think it was possible when they said, like,
Wow.
I went in like, hey doc, like, I'm thinking that we should probably try IVF. And he was like, all right, well, let's do some testing. And then he came back and was like, hey, guess what? Not gonna need IVF. And I was like, huh? And he was like,
Wow.
yeah, let's just see what's going on. And it was like a bouncing kidney bean. And here we go. And so it was just a series of things that really just, like, the best word I could have is reset and level set. What's important, appreciating your team more, right,
Mm.
and making sure that they're good, because the truth is that when people say things like, oh, business is never personal, biggest lie. 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 Okay. First of all, business is entirely personal. And if you don't believe that, you haven't been in it long enough. Anything that you're giving your blood, sweat, and tears to, and more than 40 to 80 hours, possibly 100 hours a week to, is totally personal. And if you are team building, if you are building a business, you already know that you're pouring your blood, sweat, and tears into it. You know that's your baby that you didn't give birth to physically, but you gave birth to metaphorically. And every move you make is to grow that baby and think about what's going to be best for that baby, what's going to nurture it, what trying not to make sure that it's hurt, or compromised. And so, that's personal, but on a whole other level, I think that entrepreneurship taught us that when you are building a team and expecting people to invest in your baby, that it is your obligation and your duty, and your privilege, quite honestly, to um to make them your family, to invest in them, to know what's going on with them, to care about what's going. You have to love your people, right? And not in a way where it's begrudging, like, oh, if I want them to do a good job, I need to, treat them. But no, like, love them like they're your family. They should be able to call you at any time of day or night if they have something that that is a crisis in their life. It's going to be a crisis in your life some kind of way, because taking them off the board will negatively impact your business. So you have to love your people and not look at it like it's a burden. I think that's one of the biggest things that, lessons that we learned. And we started learning that lesson way before COVID, but especially during COVID,
Mhm.
when,
Uh,
people were, experiencing loss, grandparents, in
mhm.
some cases, spouses. You had no choice but to be present for that.
I heard a lot of people talk about that you couldn't just say, before COVID, when you would say to your team, you'd be like, how's everybody doing? Right? Like it was kind of, you know, you might not even have really listened for a real response. But when you asked how people were doing during COVID, you had to be prepared for almost anything and almost any kind of response because so many people were going through so many different things.
Mhm.
Um, Take us back to 2005 when you started this business. You had a long history in the entertainment business, particularly in PR. What were you doing? Where had you come from? And what was the impetus to really start this business?
Well, in my early days, when I was in the music business, I actually wasn't in PR. I was in sales first and then marketing. So my 8 year tenure at Def Jam started off as a field rep on the ground in Virginia when I was at Hampton University. Came to the New York office, went into the sales department a week after I graduated from Hampton University. And that sales department experience was, I mean, the way that they ran it as a small company with a little short of, it was slightly short of 40 people at Def Jam at the time. 36 people, I think it was, but this was before it was acquired by Universal.
Right.
And a small, scrappy, resourceful team of people that was making the industry shake. And people were trying to figure out how they're doing it as such a small label. It was so many
Mhm.
lessons learned. It was like boot camp. So grateful for that experience. It was in no way could I have a business and have the endurance to stick out 21 years of entrepreneurship without the lessons learned there.
Wow.
But
Okay.
then moving forward, moved into the marketing department. I was a product manager for Noriega, for Kanye, for Ludacris, Method Man, Ghostface, Beanie Siegel, Freeway, and did that for a couple years, and then had the entrepreneurial itch and wanted to start my own business. And I always knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur because my mom was the first entrepreneur I ever met. So she opened up a business on Jamaica Avenue. For those of you who are familiar with Jamaica, Queens, she had a school in our basement where she taught what was
Wow.
considered business trade stuff like word processing, medical office assistant, that kind of stuff that was big in the 80s. And she taught it in the basement. And people would come to our house and I would sit in and watch her classes. And then by the time I got to high school, she had made enough money to move it into the Chase Bank building on Jamaica Avenue. So I would go
Wow.
to the school after school. My sister started working there as well. And so it became like kind of like a family business. And watching her, I was so inspired. I always knew entrepreneurship was my destination, but along the journey, I knew I wanted
Wow.
to be in entertainment and music. I loved hip hop with my heart and soul. So, that was my way into entertainment. And, it's once I left Def Jam, with all of that marketing experience and the sales experience. Once I started 135 with Saptosa came with all of this English and journalism background, and she was writing
Mhm.
stories constantly. This is my sweet pea. I knew he was going to cry.
Right.
My
You warned
boy,
us that he
my
was coming.
girl. He just came home from school. Can I get a hug real quick? Mwah. Say hi.
Oh, so sweet.
That he is
Oh,
so delicious. So Saptosa came with so much journalism and English
right.
experience, and she was writing stories. She was actually right in the middle of writing a story. I believe it was for Double XL. She had just wrapped up one for Ludacris and then was writing a story about Nas. And watching her take that little tape and transcribe every word of it and then write the story, I was like, girl, that's a ridiculous amount of time invested in this thing. And she was like, yeah, you got to make a good story. Elliot Wilson shouted her out in his editor's column at Double XL. And she was like, why are we not doing PR? And I was like, I don't know. I don't have a background in it. She was like, well, I know the journalists. And we were like, okay. And that's how we got into it, literally. And so it's really just taking the experience you have and just constantly
Mhm.
pushing, as Keith Clinkscales would say, digging deeper and expanding on what the skill set and the treasures you already have.
So, who was your first client?
Very first client was the US Postal Service. And that was through a woman named Monica Hand, who was here in Harlem, but worked at the Farley building at the US Postal Service. We met her at a business conference. As soon as we started the business, we signed up for all these conferences. Moby conference, uh, AA, that's Yvette Moyo's conference.
Mm-hmm.
And why I'm spazzing on the other conferences because none of them exist anymore. We went to all of these conferences that we signed up for, and it was like a big advertising conference at the time. And we just went there with business cards, booklets that we had made at home, and just I would say, I'll take the left side of the room, you take that side of the room. We come back, each
Wow.
of us got 30 cards, like, and then we assign a follow up list, and then we'll follow up, set up a meeting. So it was literally like that. Monica sat at the table that we were sitting at, and
Wow.
it ended up being she ended up being our first client, and then Sheila Eldridge, who was my mentor, who I
Oh.
interned for when I was 19 years old at A&M Records, during a summer when I was at Hampton. She hired us for her Coca-Cola Summer Scope summer camp in Harlem that she had. And so that helped
Wow.
us to get a big logo on the board for our as an early client. And just to getting the client, then we go pitch some press to cover the client that we got. We got featured in Essence for getting the U.S. Postal Service, Black Enterprise for getting the U.S. Postal Service client. Then we would get another client, then go pitch some press to cover. Oh, this small Black girl agency has got these, has got Coca-Cola, some has got U.S. Postal Service, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so the postal service business grew and grew, whereas it started with the Marian Anderson stamp that celebrated the
Oh,
Black Music
yeah.
Month. It
Uh-huh.
grew the following year into a whole opportunity to launch. We did the Black Music Month, Hispanic Heritage Month, and then pitched a larger campaign where it was like they were launching their digital campaign, their digital services, because before then you couldn't
Mm.
ship something online. But they had Click and Ship, which was like to rival FedEx and UPS, where you can ship online. And they didn't
Right.
have a way to get young people into it. And so we came up with a college campaign for the tri state area, all the colleges in New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut, and had the PR students compete to create a winning PR campaign for Click and Ship. So not only did they
Wow.
get the ideas, the students got to come to an American Idol style competition in the Farley building and present their ideas in front of like a panel of VIP
Wow.
business people. And so we got press on that. That was a whole other press campaign. So it was very guerrilla the way that we started. And then
And it worked.
it worked after about 4 years of grinding and taking music clients and very small budget clients. We got our opportunity to break into the film business, and that changed our business completely because they paid way different than music industry
Right.
clients. And we were like, we have to start working for money and not stardust, because I love the music business, but unfortunately, a lot of the executives and the talent in the industry
Yeah.
feel like you should get paid with the stardust falling off of their dreams, and you just can't pay your mortgage with that. And so,
Yeah.
the promises and the stardust, and it doesn't translate.
The first film that you worked on.
So oddly enough, I'm usually a proponent of not doing free projects because I feel like as African American entrepreneurs, we're already undervalued from the
Yeah.
door, right? We had a person who was working with us in an assistant capacity, and she had made a friend and was like, "Oh, my friend, she said that they would like for us to support them on this Step Up 3D PR campaign, but they don't have any money." I said, "They don't have any money. Why are we talking?" And so she was like, "Please let us do it, please." And I was like, "Okay." And we did such a good job that it just was like the right person to do that campaign for. So,
Wow.
a woman named Carolyn Sloss, who was like a film industry veteran out of Atlanta, Georgia, she worked at Allied, and Allied had all the
Mhm.
film projects. And
Mhm.
Carolyn took it upon herself as her own responsibility to sit there and call all her film executive friends and tell them about us. And
Wow.
so, every once in a while, as an agency, as an entrepreneur, you get a person like that who comes and blesses you by just doing extra work they don't have to do. And the first people who called was Disney. It was a girl named Chrissy Wu, who we're still friends with to this day. And she was like, she called, and we were on our way out the door to go do the red carpet for Urban World Film Festival. And I remember going to the door and the phone rang, and I said, I'll let it go to voicemail. Then something would not let me get out that door. I was like, should I pick up that phone? It's ringing the whole time. I'm like, should I pick up that phone? So I ran to the back and I picked it up, and then she was like, "Hi, I'm Chrissy from Disney, and I have a movie about a white girl with 70 feet of magical blonde hair. And I really want to figure out a way to get black moms to be, into it. Like, it's a really good movie." And I was like, "Is the movie good?" And she was like, "It's so good." And so she was like, "I'll set up an opportunity for you guys to screen." So we saw the film and we fell in love with it. And
Oh,
it
wow.
really wasn't about the magical blonde hair. It was really more about the uniqueness of the hair. It had butterflies and
Mhm.
it defied gravity and it flew and it did all kinds of stuff and it magically braided itself. And so we drafted a campaign that was targeting black moms, but with the messaging that the message to your daughters are, your hair is so unique, it defies gravity. There's no one like you. No one has this magic
Mm.
on their head like you do. Like yours, it does things people can't figure out how it holds twists and braids and puffs and does all of these different shapes and sizes and all of that. And that went over really well, and we got way more press than they expected on that film, and that was the first domino to
Ah.
fall. And then we started getting a ton more film projects, and then television came like a year later, when a personal friend of mine, Mona Scott Young, was like, "I have this new show coming and not getting a lot of traction. Nobody really cares, like they're not helping, and I have 4 cast members. I need to put them all in different cities in the next 24 hours." And so that was Love and Hip Hop, and we had
Mm.
Olivia, some Samaya, Chrissy, and everybody on radio at different times. Like within 24 hours, they were on the air,
Wow.
and then going into the premiere date. And so that was our first television project. And then WeTV came with Braxton Family Values, and so it was kind of like a real domino effect. And Mona did a great job as blessing us and spreading the word about the good work that we've done. And she's always been a champion of the agency, and we love and appreciate her. And that's how it went.
Yeah. You all have done really well in terms of making like all of the right connections, but you've also done really transformative work. And so what would you say your secret sauce is, or what it is that when you get a project that you're really able to, as you say, even get more press than you expected or get the responses that you've been able to get?
That's a really good question. I think that the reason why um our trend the campaigns seem to be so transformative is two things. I think that when opportunity calls, our preparation is there because of
Mm.
like we've been blessed to be at at the crux of you know the beginning of a relationship, right? It's one
Mhm.
thing to jump in when a relationship is already established, but to be there on the ground floor when Mona was establishing the Love and Hip Hop brand, when WeTV was establishing their relationship with the community, when OWN was a 10-month-old network and they were still figuring out who their target customer is and who their viewer is. And they're like, well, we got traction on Welcome to Sweeties, but the rest of this stuff isn't working. And they wiped the whole slate except for Super Soul Sunday and Welcome to Sweeties. It was like having the opportunity to be on the front end of those kind of the
Yeah.
journeys, right? Where you get to explore a relationship, a genuine relationship, explore and build a genuine
Got it.
relationship with the community. I think our preparation is that at our core, we are a company rooted in advocacy. Whenever anybody says, well, what is
Mm.
135 about? I always say 135 is about advocacy for Black owned business and Black owned media. That is it. Full stop. Like we have verticals in experiential marketing and public relations and communication
Mhm.
and digital advertising and social advertising, right? We have verticals in
Mhm.
those things, but that's not who we are. Who we are advocates for Black owned media and Black owned business. And so,
Ah.
in every single case, rather than say, oh, the community comes cheap, let's just market this thing to them. We almost always change the way that they handle the community, right? We always go
Mhm.
in saying the community deserves respect and a genuine connection. Do you want a genuine connection with them? Don't just show up like a politician when you need them to tune into your show and then you disappear. You need to be have a physical and digital presence constantly with the community. You need to pay the community respect. You need to know what's going on the corners and on Fulton Street and on 125th Street and in Chicago and in Houston and in Philly and wherever the
Mhm.
community is that you're going to rely on for your success. And you're going to sell advertising off of your show because
Right.
this community is watching. You need to care about that community. You need to go to that community. You need to pay respect to them. You need to spend money with the black owned media outlets in those communities. So I think that
Right.
whether it was a television network client or a film client or a streaming client or Google. I mean, if you anybody talks to them, they will tell you we have beat the door down. Like we need to be investing
Yeah.
in black owned media outlets, not just inviting them to come to like that's who we are. We really do walk the walk. And so you can see that Owns didn't even have a relationship in the beginning, and now they have a very solid, strong, loyal own following that relies on them for certain content. They have a lot of shows with the word love in it. Tyler Perry shows laid the foundation for the relationship with the community. The premiere of the shows used to be a big deal. We TV has a really strong relationship with the community, so we really leave an imprint on the clients because
Yeah.
we want them to establish a long-term relationship.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about OWN. It was probably one of the most anticipated networks to launch, and then it totally struggled.
Mm-hmm.
And so they had to revisit, all of their plans, their marketing, their audience. And I was fascinated to learn that you were a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so talk to us about your involvement with OWN and how you all helped shape it to now have the audience, or at that time to have the audience that they needed to grow.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's well documented, but I think that we all had big high hopes and aspirations for, Oprah's like the queen of influence, and she had that 4 o'clock slot on Channel 7, and we didn't know what was going to happen. And I'm just speaking as a fan, a person who watched the Oprah show
Mm-hmm.
every day. Like, what is this new network going to be like? Are these shows going to be huge and, global sensations like how her show was? And I don't think the audience migrated over in the way that they thought it was going to. And that's not because they told it to me, but it's just because I'm, as a
Right.
viewer, I'm seeing that. And then I think that when they obviously wiped this slate after 10 months, trying to figure out the footing and who the audience is and who they're for, I think they had to answer those kinds of questions like, who are we?
Right.
What do we stand for? Who are our people?
Mm-hmm.
Finding your people is a big part of success when launching anything. You have to make
Right.
sure the people that you're speaking to are looking for you and you're looking for them. I mean, finding your people is also what we're all about because if you haven't found your people, you're spinning your wheels, you're wasting resources, there's a lot of time wasted that you're
Mm-hmm.
not going to get back. Time, energy, money, and everything else. So I think that when she made the deal with Tyler Perry and they reached out to us, we had worked on Welcome to Sweetie Pies, and that was people had already fallen in love with Miss
Mm-hmm.
Sweetie, and so I think that the moment, it was just the right time, right? There were a lot of people who were on the team who were not familiar with Tyler Perry programming. Some people were afraid of it. They were like, oh my God, I've never seen
Right.
something like this before. Like, what am I supposed to do with this? And sometimes when your target is in one community, but the folks who work there are in a different community, you've got to get that resolved too. Because so that, everybody has to meet up and meet each other and fall in love with each other. And I think that there was a lot of that going on too. It was definitely a
Mhm.
discovery, a journey, an exploration into the community and what is so magical about us. And you know that there is a huge. Tyler Perry always says everything that we need we already have in our own community. I don't know why we're always searching for it out everywhere else. That though no truer words have ever been spoken, and he has moved in that belief his whole career, and it's led him to billions of dollars. And so I think that own had to you know, kind of walk in that and just understand, like, you know, this is what we need right here.
Right, right. Talk to us. I'd like you talked about it a little bit, but I'd like you to further explain the importance, and this is for, entrepreneurs listening, in knowing who you are. Like you talked about how, you have many different verticals where you do marketing, you do PR, and you can do communications, but at the core, you're an advocacy organization.
Hmm.
And understanding who you are is why you've been able to be exceptional in the projects that you've worked on. And so for people who, have businesses and are struggling, just talk a little bit about why that's important to really know who you are at the core, understanding what your value is when you are commissioning clients or if you're selling goods, but understanding who you are at the core.
Well, I could just speak for myself, but I know that being raised by the mom that I was raised by, my dad passed away when I was 16 years old. And he was all about school and education, school, education. Don't talk to me about nothing but
Yeah.
school and education. But she was the entrepreneur, and, you know, watching her after he passed keep all of us together. It's me and three
Okay.
siblings. And then my sisters had kids. So I have 14 nieces and nephews. But seeing the leader that she is and the person that she is and the soldier that she is, I personally found it impossible to go in rooms, like, you know how people talk about imposter syndrome. I've never had a problem with that because
Wow.
I cannot be someone else. I don't, you know, anybody
Right.
who's been in the room with me, like, you know, there might be people who might not like me, and that's fine. And there might be consequences to speaking your mind and telling people what you really think about something, but I'm prepared to pay consequences for my
Wow.
freedom to express exactly what I think is needs to be corrected, especially when I'm in there advocating for the community. I will not. I mean, we were punished one time by like one of the largest studios in the world because I
Wow.
literally said to the chief diversity officer, "Your so and so VP of blah 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 marketing and so and so really doesn't care about black people." And she just was like, "Oh my god, like believe I said that." And when I say punished, banned for like 7 years, could not get a project
Wow.
out of there. I wasn't. There's no way I was gonna be walking away like what she just said was okay. Like, no, that was not okay.
Yeah.
Did she just say that? So it's just, you know, essentially she said something like, well, we really don't need to market to them because they're gonna come anyway, talking about the community. And I was like, oh, that's why there's so little
Yeah.
effort put in when it comes to us. And I was just like, hmm. And so, you know, there's plenty of times, there's plenty of examples just like that. If I feel like something needs to be stated because you have so little respect for the community and you think that you're going to use us when you feel like it, like that's not advocacy. And smiling and making nice because I don't want to rock the boat, that's I pay a huge price for it, but I just could not. What is the point of building your own business if you cannot stand in who
Yeah.
you are? I
Yeah.
mean, if you want to go work at a company where you have to fall in line and have imposter syndrome and all of that, that is great. You can do that. I admire people who play the game. I just don't understand it. But you know, being who you are is one of the freedoms that's afforded to a person who's willing to put in the grind and the work to build your own business, to be the, you know, to be the maker of your own personal economy.
I also like the phrase that you use often about finding your own people. Um,
Mhm.
that you talk to about businesses all the time, the importance of that. Um, Share your philosophy behind the finding your own people?
Well, I think that a lot of us are on a mission to fit in with people who are not our people. And that's why people get stressed, insecure, sick,
Mhm.
nauseous, all kinds of things. That's what imposter syndrome is all about, because you're trying to
Right.
fit in with people who are not your people. And that doesn't mean race either. It means people who are like minded, people who share your
Mhm.
values, your beliefs, your philosophies, who are willing to, who have respect for the same things you have respect for,
Mhm.
who are willing to set their values and proof that they set their values the same. Like, you guys
Right.
believe in this thing, right? And so what happens is, when you don't find your people and you're trying to be in a group and force yourself in and force yourself to fit, the
Mhm.
toll on you is just too high.
Right.
The bottom
Right.
line is that your people are looking for you just as much as you're looking for them. That's real talk. If you look at the world the way that it's moving right now, right, with social media, look at Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube. They are
Mhm.
all moving in a small community direction, right? That's how come it's really not about, they're not rewarding people for how many followers you have anymore. They're rewarding you for the kind of content that can attract big communities of people. We live in a world that's finally realizing that life is about small communities. And some of those communities swell to be big communities because of the commonalities. But if you are chasing a community that you don't fit into, or that is, the welcome is not warm, the toll on you is too high. When you can go find the people who are looking for you, they are looking for you, they exist, they're out there, there are communities that are looking for what you have just as much as you're looking for them. And that is the payoff of finding your people.
What is, I know that you are also diversifying a little. What is that looking like for you and your company?
I mean, embarking on anything new is always going to have, some headwinds and some friction.
Mhm.
I think that where I am mentally is that I used to feel like, oh my God, we have to have, keep getting a whole lot of clients. I don't feel that way anymore, mostly because my time is really more of my time is being demanded at home because of my mom and my son. And also, 2 years ago, I lost my sister on July 2nd, 2023.
Oh,
And I cannot describe the transformation after that loss. I mean, she was in the room when my son was born. She was the person who I was on the phone with 3, 4 hours a day,
wow.
every night before bed. And rebuilding, reinventing who I am, without her, it has made me see that a lot of the things that I might have been, and this is a revelation I haven't quite articulated, to myself yet, but I am discovering it. Like, before, I feel like I would force myself through challenging situations, things that were super stressful, hard, just being numb and being like, this is just the grind, right? And taking
Right.
on more than I could chew, and getting through it. But I would have her on the phone, like, literally just talking to her hours a day about it, which was therapeutic. And in her absence, I am like, why am I doing that? Why am I taking on all of these things? Why am I carrying all of these things? Why am I doing this? Because I can no longer just talk through it all day long until I get through the pain, right?
Mhm.
I am literally like, I have a certain amount of time. And anything that is I'm going to spend my time on has got to be something that's satisfying, and something that's, rewarding, something that I'm curious
Mhm.
about, something that I want to learn, something that makes me feel good. It doesn't matter
Right.
how, if it's like a big win, or, some kind of big challenge or something like that. So I think I've changed the way that I pursue business. I go after quality instead of quantity, and projects that, like, digging deep and exploring not, I'm using the word exploring wrong. Digging deep and establishing a deeper
Okay.
relationship with Apple TV has been one of the best things that we have worked on in the past two
Wow.
years because the projects are. like the Franklin Project for Peanuts, the Big Cigar, and the Lady in the Lake, and Surface. Like those are like quality projects that I'm just like happy to be a part of. Very proud to have worked on them.
Mhm.
And the working with Peacock last year on Bel Air and Fight Night. Like those are
Okay.
fun projects to work. And even though it might
Right.
be a lot of moving parts, like those are the things that I
Right.
would spend more of my time on now than trying to run a race against a sea of new agencies. Because every time Netflix or one of those places, lays people off, everyone starts an agency. So every year, it literally triples and quadruples the amount of agencies out there trying to get business. And I'm like, why am I doing that? That's not, like exploring the kind of company that I want to work for and work with, and companies that I love, that I think that are, changing the way that we live. That's where I'm trying to spend more of my time now.
I think that's a huge message that you are sharing. You mentioned that at the top of the interview, the importance of watching your energy, knowing where it's going, um, and I do feel like that's important for entrepreneurs who sometimes always feel like they have to chase or always feel like they have to grind, and being able to say, you know what, I'm going to choose things that I feel good about, or things that align with who I am, is an important message to share and reiterate with folks who are listening.
Yep.
Um, so, what is next for 135th Street Agency?
So for 135, I probably haven't mentioned this yet, but we are going to be evolving into a
Mhm.
new vertical of business that I'm super excited about. But it's more for entrepreneurs and less for big corporate business. And it is teaching entrepreneurs how to literally launch a PR campaign for their business.
Mm.
Okay, so if we look at the landscape, right? My social circle, Saptosa's social circle, a lot of entrepreneurs, your social circle is other entrepreneurs. What we were
Right.
constantly seeing is that there are entrepreneurs out there who are doing remarkable things, who are making lives better, easier, who are leaning in places where there's a lot of mystery and we don't know anything about it. And we don't know anything about
Mhm.
them because they're in the trenches working and building the business.
Right.
And they may not have resources to hire a PR agency for $15,000 or $20,000 a month. So they just go without press. But these
Mhm.
entrepreneurs, they can they're remarkable, press worthy entrepreneurs. And
Mhm.
so we're crafting a coaching program where the entrepreneurs can learn how to launch their own PR and what those 5 essential steps are to launching your own campaign, but not
Uh,
just launching it like the last thing an entrepreneur is looking to do is add a new job on, right?
right.
You're already the janitor, the check writer, the owner,
right.
the secretary, and everybody else. The last thing you're looking to do is be like, hey, can I get one
Yeah.
more job to add on to that? But really showing people how becoming the chief communications officer for your business should not be a job. It
Mhm.
should be a mindset, a philosophy. It's the way you communicate about your job. No matter how much money you spend on anyone else, they cannot communicate about your baby in the way that you can. You eat it, you sleep it, you breathe it, you gave birth to it, you lay it to bed every night. You wake up with it every day. You go through the mortgage crisis, recession after recession, and COVID and every other socioeconomic gotten catastrophe that's going to come up, and you manage to keep that business steady. And so no one can talk about it like you can, but you just don't do it because you don't have the tools to figure out how to talk about it, and talk about it and have fun talking about it, and talk about it often and enjoy it, and figure out, boil it down to, how can I talk about what's remarkable about my business in 3 sentences? Not Now, we live these businesses, right? So it's nothing for us to talk for an hour about what we do. We just aren't going to get that kind of time with anybody. You have 3 sentences, 30 seconds or less. And what is remarkable? that's a journey for a lot of people to figure out what's remarkable, because they probably think everything's remarkable about their business. They do this every day, but it's usually like one or two things that's really remarkable that if you said it, people would be like, "Wow, I need to learn more about that." So it's really creating an opportunity for entrepreneurs to learn how to do what we do for themselves, while also taking on dynamic new clients that we're working with. We actually have some new WeTV projects coming up,
Very cool.
with a show called Operation Aunties with Tisha Campbell, working, Apple TV projects. We're wrapping up Surface right now, and so a lot of that going on, and hopefully you'll hear about some really exciting stuff in the Harlem community coming soon. So those are the things, but we wanted to lean more into the advocacy for the community, and the coaching program is definitely part of that, and making it something that entrepreneurs can subscribe to and really get value out of.
Well, I can tell you the coaching program I already know is going to do well because it's so needed. I mean, we talk to entrepreneurs all the time, and that is one of the things that they struggle with. All of the points you made are so correct. Like they understand it because they live it every day, but how do you sell that idea?
Mm-hmm.
So we will be tracking you. We will be following you. And so for folks who either want to book you as a client or to take the coaching program, how can they find you?
If they want to, number one, they can always go to 135agency.com and subscribe to our email list. That's that if you want to get updates about that. If you are interested in the coaching program, you can go to shantebacon.com, and sign up for the free PR Pocket Guide. And we get people who download the Pocket Guide every day, and it's just a free resource that I created for entrepreneurs, because not like I am not a gatekeeper, right? So I'm not going to hold on to a whole bunch of information and then try to sell every piece of it, especially because some stuff is just like, if I can help you out by giving you the 8 things that you should avoid doing as an entrepreneur, and this will increase your chances of getting covered, I put it on paper and anybody can go on and download it. I also do a monthly free masterclass that it's a 2.5 hour masterclass, and I'm digging deep, giving all kinds of gems and examples of what I mean and what I'm talking about. And people come on and they're like, oh my God, you are preaching.
Well, how can you access that, the masterclass?
Also on shantebacon.com.
Okay.
And also I have a challenge. I will do the next challenge in May. But I have a challenge, and that's, for serious, committed entrepreneurs only. It's 5 days, nothing spectacular. It's 2 hours if you get the VIP program, 1 hour if you do the general admission program, but it's 5 days of challenging yourself. Are you willing to take the 5 steps that it takes to launch your own PR campaign? And a large part of it is mindset. It really is. Because the only way you're going to take this on but not make it feel like it's a new job is to shift your mindset, so that the same way you talk about when people watch sports and they're hooting and hollering and jumping up and down and all of that, you're not in you have no role in anything that's happening on that screen, but you can run them stats down, jump out of your chair, and it should feel like that. Like, it's so exciting to know your analytics and know what your customers are thinking and customer feedback and how you communicate about your business. And that's what it should feel like. So the challenge is just for serious people who want to start the journey. For $97, you can get general admission, and for $297 you do the VIP. And for 5 days I am teaching the class, and you can ask any questions that you'd like. If you're in the VIP program, there's downloadable booklets and all of that, and that's just to get people started on the way.
Okay. Well, I am definitely going to visit the site to check out some of your offerings and check out your masterclass. And I invite the audience to do the same. Thank you so much, Shante, for coming on and sharing your insight. And like I said, we'll be keeping up with you. And at some point, we would love to have you back.
I would love to be back. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been great speaking with you and reconnecting with you.
And reconnecting, absolutely. And thank you all for listening. We'll be back again next week with another great guest.
The Business First podcast is hosted and produced by Sonia Alleyne. Executive producer Ken Johnson. Find the Business First podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Odyssey, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, TuneIn, or wherever you get your podcast. On social media on IG at business_first_podcast. Follow the Mean Old Line Media Podcast Network on IG at Mean Old Line Media. Get the Mean Old Line Media app in the App Store or Google Play. The Business First podcast is a Mean Old Line Media production.